We'll talk about that game a little bit more later. We'll preview it in some depth. We'll start with the Vic Country v Allies game, and that was a cracker of a game, probably the highest standard of footy we've seen throughout the championship so far. Vic Country getting the chocolates by 2 points, and an outstanding spectacle. We saw the return of a couple of players on the Vic Country side of things, Finn O'Sullivan and Reece Unwin, and the Allies finished their championships with plenty of players having boosted their stocks and some bottom majors to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was a terrific watch, wasn't it? And quietly, we were both hoping Country would get over the line, because who doesn't want to see a grand final at the end of it? But that was a terrific show of footy. It was probably expected to happen at some point, that type of game. But it was terrific effort by Country and got the job done. Lombard kicked that goal on the siren, which 2 points is probably how it felt in the end. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start with Finn O'Sullivan.
Yep.
His return for Vic Country. It was a quieter return, in all honesty, but it was those late efforts where you just showed that extra bit of class of what he's capable of. He was unselfish. He was, he set up Jack Whitlock late. That cleanness out of traffic at times in that forward half set him apart when it really mattered at the end, even though he was quieter in that first period of the game.
Yeah, a couple of really nice kicks inside 50. You touched on that one to Whitlock there. But yeah, I guess a couple of things on his last quarter. You talk about good players, and we said before with Harvey Langford and Cooper Hines wanting to line up alongside them, good players stand up in the big moments, and he certainly did that and helped Country win after what had been a quieter game from him. So he really built into the game nicely, and I guess the other part of that is he was playing on managed minutes, so it was no surprise that when fatigue did start setting in for some of his teammates, he was able to really help his team get over the line, and he finished with 16 touches. At least 8 of them, I reckon, would have been in that last quarter, because he was very quiet. So he went into the midfield after starting on the wing and, showed his overhead ability as well. So looking forward to seeing what he produces in the last third of the season. We'll go to another player who was returning from injury as well, in Reece Unwin, who I think had a real impact up forward. He's so zippy and has those real small forward traits. He's got that ability to be real antagonistic to opponents, I think, and I say that in an endearing way. I really liked what he produced. He's got quick hands and he's really elusive as well. He's hard to tackle and he's got that sort of deft touch at ground level.
Yeah, well, I thought he was consistently lively, especially in that forward half, but maybe lacked that little bit of touch with his finish. But it did evolve really well as the game went on. Had that really nice goal where he was able to run inside 50, assess his options, whilst he was running and make that decision. I can finish this myself. Yeah. And that's what he did. Had some crafty tap work around 50 to get around opponents. So I thought it was a good build into his first game at country level, and I think he'll be able to expand that even more in the granny.
Yeah, certainly. We'll go line by line now, and we'll start with the midfield for Vic Country, and we better talk about Harvey Langford because he was probably the best player on the ground. He's having an absolutely terrific championships. His burst out of stoppage and just those clean hands, it really stands out at this level. The players that are able to be clean just have a little bit more time and a little bit more class, and it allows them to be a lot more sure with their disposal as well. He showed his overhead ability, and his tackling pressure as well is sensational. If he doesn't have the ball, he's certainly doing something defensively.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good rap there, because I would have said the exact same things. It's those defensive efforts that I love about his game, where when other midfielders will look to go forward and get running, he's always waiting. It feels like there's a waiting presence about him around stoppages, knowing when to impact defensively and then when to go forward and be an offensive impact. So yeah, he was certainly terrific.
Definitely. Riley Onley, I thought, was one of the better players on the ground as well, and really grabbed the opportunity of being given midfield minutes. He won some really big clearances, particularly centre clearances, and he's just got that acceleration, and he's so poised in traffic, and I thought that showed on the day. He works really hard to get to lots of contests, and he's got that power, so he's one to watch in the next 12 to 15 months, obviously still a bottom major. Yeah,
similar to Langford, I thought he brought his defensive efforts with that tackle pressure as well, and he was super set with his burst out of stoppages, knowing where to get the footy moving. I'll move to Xavier Ivicic now, who has been super productive across all three champs games, and his hunt for the footy is probably up there with the best, in the whole championships, really. I just love the way he attacks it. He knows his role, where he's one of the smaller mids and he's going to have to get in and under most times, and he does it really well. He generates quick, exit handballs, and thought he just produced really solid efforts all day, and it was couldn't really fault him most of the time.
Yeah, he doesn't shirk a contest, does he? Most of what I noticed about him on the day was his stuff in the contest, which is really good because we know he does have that dash about him as well. We'll move to the back line now, and Toby Travalia is where we'll start. I thought he had a bit of a quieter start to the game and worked his way into it. It wasn't Toby Travalia that we have seen throughout the season, but he still had some really important moments and provided that dash through the second half in particular.
Yeah, he just has that pounce. I keep noticing those first few steps with his acceleration that are probably the difference between him and those other halfbacks is that ability to get it moving and the meters gained he's able to get with the ball in hand. He was quite agile at times as well. His ability to dance around a few opponents. He was composed in D50. I thought he provided intercept presence at time as well, and even produced those aggressive tackle moments at times, especially in the middle of that third quarter as well. So yeah, really, really strong game from Toby. I'd expect him to absolutely set the world alight in this final game as well and top off what's been a really good champs.
Yeah, certainly. Lockie Jakes as well, another one who has been really consistent across the carnival. You talked about it with Xavier Ivasic. It's been a good carnival for those Falcons boys. Yeah, laid some really big tackles and he's got that athleticism. You put it on the radar 6 to 8 weeks ago, I think, Nathan, with that athleticism that he's got. And I think that's really shown throughout the championships with his ability to get up and rise for some big marks, but he's so poised at ground level as well.
Yeah, well, that athleticism was something I was almost disappointed he wasn't able to show in the first couple of months of Talent League. I mean, he had the duty of the kickouts most time and that rebounding role, but it wasn't really allowing him to show that intercepting presence. But I thought he's been able to do that really well. He was clean under pressure. He took a few good intercept marks and had a really good defensive rundown tackle at one point as well. So I thought it was probably his best game so far. I know you liked his game last week. The previous game as well, but yeah, he was really solid and it was a great contributor. Probably, one of the best on ground, I reckon, in the end. And
then moving to the forward line, Sammy Lawler showed his strength. He did go through the midfield as well, but yeah, that ability overhead and that real presence to not only take some marks, but to bring it to ground level as well. We've seen it with Cooper Hines, but he's certainly been able to show it as well. Kicked the 3 goals, and it's good to see him building into some form. And Jonty Fall as well, his teammate at the GWV Rebels, was absolutely sensational. It was a bit of a day for the key forwards, but yeah, he took some really big contested marks, got himself into good positions, and it's just his strength and his ability to outmaneuver opponents that really stood out, and he's willing to get involved at ground level as well.
Yeah, well, 3 goals was a pretty big, impactful performance. Sam Law is one I absolutely love watching. Would have been one of my top 5 at the start of the year to watch in terms of that real contested beast, and love what he does up forward in terms of its impact in a matter of minutes, which is just terrific from him. That he was probably quiet for a majority of the game. I don't know if you'd agree with that. I reckon if in 100%, he was probably only active for about 30-40%. But
yeah,
3 goals in that time, he was super effective. Just has that real hunt, and he was taking the good. His power in the marking contest was terrific as well.
And just quickly on Matt Whitlock, I know you liked his game.
Yeah, I did. He's one that I had mixed opinions of as it went on. I thought at times inside 50 he was too safe, which isn't a bad thing. That's not really a dig in terms of fundamentals. I just thought at times he got into good space, did those things well. It was that next kick where he'd be quite short and it would be the one-on-one contest, which when you look at it, it's a 50-50. So is there a better option there for him? But I thought later on he took a really good offensive intercept mark, that being the ball coming out of the forward 50, intercepts it. Just had really strong hands up the ground as well and kicked a really vital goal late in that fourth quarter. So it was obviously more of a positive day. That was just my assessment as the game went on. How can he be more damaging in open play inside 50?
We'll move on to the Allies now, and we'll start down back with Joel Cochran. We had mixed opinions on his game. His intercepting was outstanding, and we know he's got that ability aerially and willingness to read the ball and then go and take a grab. But I was disappointed with his distribution throughout the day, and I think that's something he's going to have to work on, and hopefully we see it a bit more in the last part of the season. But you really liked his game and thought he was a key contributor for the Allies.
I'd pretty much agree with what you said. I liked his game in the sense that he was super switched on when it came to intercepting, and he was able to get himself in good spots. He was defensively applying himself with tackle pressure, and his offensive kicking had the right idea, I thought, but yeah, it's the execution that certainly let him down in the end, and that's kind of been the general theme with Joel Cochran all year. But generally his one-on-one work was really good, and had a really good holding the ball tackle to stop a scoring shot in the fourth quarter as well. So yeah, I don't know where you sit with that type of game, because it showed all the right defensive elements, but when it comes down to fundamentals like kicking, well, that's where you're like, it has to improve to really cement your name, I reckon, but still a good performance.
Ben Kennedy took the 3 intercept marks as well, and I thought he did some nice things, which was good to see him finish the championships well after some strong form at Xavier College. We'll move on to the midfield now, though. Leo Lombard won the Allies MVP, and it was another bona fide Leo Lombard performance with his power and his ability to keep his hands free in tackles and burst through in stoppage.
Yeah, well, it was very typical Lombard. He's an odd one. I've watched him at VFL level and obviously, Allies level. He definitely does too much sometimes at 18s level, because he doesn't do it at VFL where he'll, take on everything. He's very well matted in that sense. But it's just his power. He can afford to do that at this level, is his strength, and his delivery inside 50 was great as well. His offensive kicks were looking to open the ground up. So it was a good finish, and deserved the MVP medal for Allies.
Sam Marshall was his right-hand man, I suppose, in the midfield, and was absolutely outstanding through the championships. You could easily have given him the Allies MVP as well. He probably doesn't catch the eye the same way that Leo Lombard does, but his work rate and his ability to go in hard and willingness to win the footy was really good. He's really clean as well, and showed his nimble footwork on the day. So it caps off a really strong championships for him.
Yeah, 100%. He's such a composed ball mover, and he's one that really does fly under the radar, and it's interesting with power rankings where he sits in a lot of those discussions, because he's so valuable on the field, but he's obviously not your Lombard, who's your main, takes everything on. He's just so switched on and understands the game really well. So yeah, I was super impressed with him.
I'll let you lead the way with some of the forwards. We'll get to Job Shanahan in a second, who was the clear best on ground, but you really liked the games of Josh Murphy and Ollie DePoly-Cubank, or Ty Gallup finished with 3 goals.
Yeah, I'll quickly just touch through. I mean, ODK was quite good. I thought that was a good summation of his championships in the end. I feel like there was always that extra little bit we'd hope he'd get to, which maybe that is expecting too much. I still think he reached the heights he needed to. He was super productive when he needed to be. He was good in space. I thought he just wasn't ultra damaging with his disposal. That was probably the dig I'd have on him in the end. But he was really poised with ball in hand. And Ty Gallup was really good early on. He kicked 3 goals. He was always proactive around the drop of the ball, especially for a big as well. He was composed, kicked a nice snap, and then just a few strong leads and contested one-on-one marks. And Josh Murphy, feel like we know what we're going to get from him every game. He needed to have that type of game, and we said it early with the first goal that he kicked.
That was amazing, stepping through traffic and kicking it from 50.
He needed that moment, and that's... I'm glad he got it. That's where we sit. But yeah, it's his power, his general power around the footy, and in his leads as well. You feel like when he gets that first step off your opponent, he's going to take it 9 times out of 10.
And you talk about power. Zeke Yuland with some of his fend-offs was absolutely sensational throughout the day. I thought he came into it more the longer the game went on, but he's really hard to tackle and has that fend-off as well. I really liked what he produced throughout the championships, and he's one that Gold Coast supporters will want to keep a really close eye on next year when he is draft eligible, because it's amazing what he's already producing as a bottom major. But we'll move on to Job Shanahan, who was the best on ground. Some of that contested marking that he showed, and then his ability to kick 3 goals all at crucial times, was absolutely excellent. I thought that's probably the best game that he's played since the under-17s game at Werribee last year, where he was taking contested marks for fun. So his ability to lead up, get separation, also stand under the high ball, take contested marks, and hit the scoreboard was excellent, and he hit targets inside 50 as well. Yeah,
100%. It was a game he also needed, I feel like, because he's had pretty productive champs performances, but usually the criticism I've had is he probably just hasn't got himself involved as much as he needed to. But yeah, well summed, and just loved the way he provided presence in transition as well, and that really topped off his game, I thought.
We'll go through all the players in a separate video next week and really analyse their championships in a bit more depth from Vic Country and Allies, and obviously Vic Metro as well when their carnival finishes. So keep an eye out for that video. But